Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, for the very first time since I started this channel, I'm going to break one of my little unwritten rules. And that is, I'm going to come back to a subject, same subject, twice in a day. And I try not to do that. And this will be the first time ever, but I think it's important to do so. And it's all about Fergus Ewing. Now, of course, the first video was first thing this morning, about 7 hours ago now. So I'm hoping, given that time span, I've got a little bit of leeway and you'll be very forgiving of me for doing this. Like I say, I try not to, try to move from subject to subject, not going back on the same day. But given how fundamental this is to the SNP and given who the person is, I do feel that I do feel it's important to do it. Because in that first video, I said that there may well be a backlash over this. And we're having this because it appears, yes, there is. And there's people standing up for him and saying it's terrible and blah. And we're going to have a look at that. And then the other thing is, there was his speech, the speech he gave after the decision was made. And we're going to, sort of go through what he said there. And then at the end of that, I've come to a conclusion. Now, you watch the speech. I mean, it's me reading the speech. It's not him. But I'll read the speech to you. And then I've done a conclusion. Now, you may disagree with my conclusion. You may agree with my conclusion. We can put that in the comments. But I think it's very telling as to what's going on within the SNP at various levels. And I think it's very important that we look at it. So do please hit the subscribe button. Do please hit the like button. Both of them are vitally important to the channel, especially the subscribe because of that. And it's things like this that keep the channel going. And this story, as I say, I apologise for coming back to the same subject, but this story is, I think, important because it could see a tidal change within the SNP. Let's have a look. Right, so the first one this morning, I think, was the Daily Record, when we first recorded it and first we did that video. This one is in the Herald, so slightly different sort of viewpoint. We know the Herald tends to be a bit more serious journalism, to be fair, a little bit more serious, but it's also slightly more sympathetic to the SNP cause, we shall say diplomatically. But even so, even they have to admit that all is not well in the garden of joy that is the SNP at the moment. So SNP facing angry backlash over suspending Fergus Ewing as a by-election looms next week. And there's the two main people that are involved in this. Now, I will say, and I didn't realise this morning in the first video, otherwise I really would have made big noise about it. But two of the very prominent SNP members did not vote either for nor against nor abstain because they were missing. Now, one was Sturgeon. Now, I can see why she isn't going to get involved with causing a suspension of Fergus Ewing. She isn't going to be seen to be wanting to suspend someone like that when she herself is so close to suspension for what she's done. So she did a very tactical withdrawal. And again, I've said many times, you can disagree with her politics and she's an awful woman, etc., etc. But politically, very shrewd. So she did the right thing and basically buggered off. So she was nowhere near this vote. And Humza Yousaf got conveniently ill. Oh, he was too ill to appear and vote yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening. And yet, strangely, looked quite perky today in FMQs. So I think he must have had a touch of Ewingitis or some such thing. Because he certainly didn't want to be voting one way or the other on that. Because he knew, again, that would come back and bite him. But even so, he should never have let it get this far. But he did, and that shows from him a very poor understanding of politics. But anyway, getting into this story. The SNP is today facing a backlash over suspending the prominent MSP Fergus Ewing from the party's Hollywood group. And then we're just not going to go through all of this because we did most of the story this morning. But supporters of Mr. Ewing took to social media to condemn the decision to withdraw the whip from the long-serving MSP. The 66-year-old, who is among the party's few MSPs who were elected for the party to the Scottish Parliament in 1999. There's very few that have been there the whole 24 years, aren't there? You think about it. He was suspended after he voted against the Circular Economy Minister, Lorna Slater, in a motion of no confidence over her handling of the DRS. Now, he didn't vote against his own party. That's the point we were making. He voted against a member of an opposing party. Yeah, you're in power with them, but they're not your party. And so I don't see why that should be so controversial. She is a moron. Anyway, he was expected to be disciplined shortly after the vote in June, but action was paused following the death of his mother, the legendary SNP politician Winnie Ewing, God rest her bloody soul. She will be sitting there whirling. Honestly, she's going to come back and haunt them, She is. She was a demon for it. Anyway, allies of Mr. Ewing last night criticised the move, which followed a 65-minute disciplinary meeting, held in private, of course, in a Holyrood committee room. Although this morning, Cabinet Secretary Mary McCallan, who's about 14, does the Saturday jobs, she voted for the suspension, and she said the action was proportionate. What would she know? She's only been in politics 7 minutes. Anyway, a total of 48 SNP MSPs voted for his week-long suspension. 9 opposed it, and 4 abstained. Now, of those 13, the 9 who opposed it, well done. Well done, you have got a little streak of decency. The 4 that opposed it, I'll still say well done, because you didn't actually vote for it. But it does show a little bit of cowardice that you're not going to vote for or against. Make a stand, Make a stand. Draw the line. But hey, better than voting for it. Anyway, neither the First Minister and the SNP leader Humza Yousaf nor his predecessor Nicola Sturgeon attended the meeting, with the former pretending to be unwell and the latter having a prior engagement. Yeah, I've got a bit of Ewingitis, I daren't turn up because I don't want to do this. And the other one's going, I ain't going anywhere near that one. Oh, no. Off she goes. Anyway, he's Joanna Cherry. Right, Joanna Cherry. Now, she voted against suspension. She said, I may not agree with Fergus Ewing on everything, but he is a man of integrity. And I think, generally on most people, regardless of your political viewpoint, your party, whatever, I think most people would agree he is definitely one of the few that actually has integrity, to be fair. Anyway, she continued, I'm glad there were rebels on this vote. His rebellion is a product of years of inadequate debate in our party about policy making, and that needs to change. Don't shoot the messenger, wrote Joanna Cherry last night on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. And quite right. I mean, I do. This is one of those ones where, again, Joanna Cherry, don't agree with everything, do agree with this. And I think Joanna Cherry somewhat isn't as bad as some of the others. Not great. Some things are a bit dodgy, shady, but not the worst of them. Anyway, SNP grandee Alex Neil, a former health secretary, also criticised the move. He said, doing this to Fergus Ewing shows how divorced from reality and intolerant of other people's views the SNP leadership has become. I'm sad to say, he wrote on Twitter. And there's a lot of them coming out in support of Fergus. Now, I'm going to suggest, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to suggest that come the party conference in Aberdeen next month, there may be more support. Now that they've done what they've done, there may be even more support for Fergus. There'll be people looking at the current leadership and realising what they are. Realising that they're actually weak. They're very, very weak, and they're vulnerable. If one man can tell the truth and make them run to the hills in fear and try and suspend him and do all these things because they fear what he can do, then it goes to show how weak and insecure they truly are. Anyway, Angus MacNeil, Angus, the party's former MP who was expelled from the SNP this summer and now sits as an independent, also hit out the party, said the party has left us both. He says, Fergus calls as old SNP meets new SNP, he wrote on the social media platform. I saw it as a settle up and Met settled down, and either way, the SNP left us both. A sad turn of events. Time to prioritise independence. Now, for all his faults, MacNeil, and fuck me, MacNeil's got faults, hasn't he? But MacNeil is probably the one who most pushes the independence. He is absolutely obsessed with independence and that. But for him, it is almost a religious fervour. and the party left him behind. The party's leaving behind the ones that most strongly align themselves with what the party's attempting to do, because these people don't represent where the party wants to go, which is, well, we've covered it many times, but it's in a terrible direction. I'm not going to deal with it there. Anyway, Mr. Ewing was supported by his sister, the SNP MSP Annabelle Ewing, who I think is deputy presiding officer from time to time, I think. Anyway, who was close to tears. She was close to tears. And colleagues Kate Forbes and Christine Graham, as he gave a defiant statement after the meeting. Now, Forbes, of course, him and Forbes would be, I would suggest, the dream ticket. Now, they're still the SNP, and we've got to get rid of them regardless. But if you're going to have the SNP in charge, at least put those two in charge, because they're less mad and less dangerous than all the others. And I think Forbes, for a start, would tell the Greens where to go and say, look, you know, we've got 18 months, just run a minority government for 18 months or so. Let's get to the election, and then we'll go from there. But get rid of the old guard, get rid of the tossers, get rid of the mad ones, get rid of the crooks. And I think she could do it. Not saying she's great, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. But at least she's sane. Anyway, he gave a defiant statement after the meeting, which he attacked the party he was born into and said it no longer puts Scotland first. Been a long time since then. It only puts itself first. And even then, it doesn't put itself first. It only puts the coterie at the top first. Everyone else can hang, you know. He said he'd criticised policies, including the deposit return scheme, which is a green policy, the highly protected marine areas, which was a green policy. They're both now been shelved. And the plan to ban fossil fuel boilers. Again, a green policy. Nothing to do with the SNP. He says, I was literally born into the SNP. For me, and indeed many others, support of the party and advocacy of an independent Scotland has been a life's work, he said. My loyalty to the party has been great. Many is the time as a minister and as an MSP. I have bitten my tongue for the greater good. I did this because I knew that whatever disagreements or policy shortcomings I thought the party had, it was fundamentally attempting to do the right thing by my constituents and for Scotland. It was never an ordinary political party because it was the one which put Scotland first. In good conscience, this is no longer the case, and it has nothing to do with personalities or my antipathy towards the Green Party. It has to do with the policies on the DRS, on fishing, on transport, tourism and small businesses, and on boiler replacement, which are deeply hostile to the interests of my constituency. That was a fantastic speech he made. I will suggest that that is the speech of a man who may be considering leaving the SNP. He may be looking to go independent or, God forbid, join Alba. But that sounds like someone who's just about had enough. And that would be a sad loss, I think, for the SNP. It'd be a sad loss for Scotland, unless he continued as an independent. His suspension comes just ahead of the Westminster by-election in Rutherglen and Hamilton West next Thursday, and as Mr Yousaf prepares to address his first SNP conference as party leader the following week. And it comes just months after intense debate in the party over whether Miss Sturgeon should be suspended following her arrest by police investigating the SNP's finances. The former First Minister was released without charge pending further inquiries. Mr Yousaf declined the calls to suspend her, but was very, very quick to suspend Fergus Ewing. It goes on, and I'm not going to go in too much in there because it does go on a fair bit. But it is telling that that's how it stands. And I did feel that I needed to bring you that speech because I thought that speech was most important. But anyway, we'll round that off there. It's getting a bit long. We'll round that off there and come up. So what do we think? Will he leave the party? Will he just bide his time, bite his tongue, get to the conference? Will he challenge for leadership? It's hard to tell, isn't it? But that speech certainly seemed as though it's from the heart. I think it was a powerful speech, and I think the subtext of that speech sent a very powerful message. He's basically saying once again and criticising once again the leadership of the party. He's not happy, and I think it goes out as a call. I think what he's made there is a call to arms for the decent people who support the SNP, and there are some. to sort of get behind him and try and take the party back from the madness of these extremists, and certainly to get rid and dump the Greens. Good luck, Fergus. Good luck. I wish you well of it. Anyway, I shall stop there, and I shall once again thank you and for obliging me with a return on the same subject in a day, and apologising for doing it. I try not to, as I say. But anyway, there we go. I thought it was important enough, and that speech itself was excellent. So let me know in the comments if you think he's going to stay, going to go, what, you know, or whatever. Let me know. Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and let's all hope that Fergus takes them down one way or another. Bye.